Judge Dredd's Lawmaster motorcycle wasn't just a prop in two separate film adaptations. It represented the ultimate fusion of law enforcement vehicles and Judge's personal arsenal, equipped with artificial intelligence, devastating weaponry, and futuristic design that push practical effects to their limits. The Lawmaster appeared in both the 1995 Sylvester Stallone film and the 2012 Karl Urban reboot, with each production creating vastly different interpretations of the iconic comic book bike. But why did the Stallone version require a team of engineers just to keep it running between takes? How did the 2012 production build functioning Lawmasters for under $15,000 each when the original cost over $200,000? And what happened to the bikes that were supposed to revolutionize real-world police motorcycles, but ended up in a warehouse rotting? These are 20 weird facts about Judge Dredd's Lawmaster motorcycle that will blow your mind. Number 20. The dual film interpretations. Two completely different. Lawmaster motorcycles were created for Judge Dredd's film adaptations, reflecting radically different production philosophies and budgets separated by 17 years. The 1995 Stallone film had a massive budget and attempted building a genuinely futuristic motorcycle using cutting-edge technology. Production designer Nigel Phelps designed a bike resembling nothing on contemporary roads, featuring enclosed bodywork, bizarre proportions, and integrated weapons that looked authentically 22nd century. The budget allowed experimentation with exotic materials and custom engineering. They built multiple versions costing over $200,000 each. The 2012 Dredd reboot operated on a fraction of the budget, forcing practical compromises. Production designer Mark Digby used modified existing motorcycles as foundations, adding futuristic bodywork and details rather than engineering completely custom machines. Each Lawmaster cost approximately $12,000 to $15,000, achieved through clever fiberglass work and strategic camera angles. The visual results were surprisingly effective despite budget constraints. The 1995 Lawmasters looked expensive and elaborate, but barely functioned. The 2012 versions looked grittier and more practical, while actually being rideable. This contrast demonstrated that budget doesn't guarantee success. Creativity and understanding your limitations often produces better results than unlimited money spent poorly. Both interpretations influenced how fans visualize Lawmasters, with comic artists borrowing elements from both film designs. In number 19, the Stallone version's engineering disaster. The 1995 Lawmaster was an engineering catastrophe that rarely worked properly, requiring a team of 5 mechanics working full-time just to keep one bike operational for filming. Director Danny Cannon wanted the Lawmaster to be genuinely futuristic, not just a modified contemporary motorcycle. He hired automotive engineers from Lotus to design a functional vehicle incorporating the comic's wild specifications. Lotus attempted building a motorcycle unlike anything previously created. They designed a custom frame, unusual suspension geometry, and completely enclosed bodywork. The engine was a modified Harley-Davidson unit, hidden inside as a futuristic cowling. The engineering team promised everything would work beautifully. They were catastrophically wrong. The unusual suspension geometry made the bike nearly unrideable. The enclosed bodywork trapped engine heat, causing constant overheating. The custom electronics failed repeatedly. Wiring harnesses melted from heat. Sensors malfunctioned. The bike would work for 15 minutes, then break down completely. Production hired 5 motorcycle mechanics, whose sole job was maintaining the Lawmasters. They worked 18-hour days replacing components, troubleshooting failures, and desperately keeping bikes running. Sylvester Stallone had attempted riding it once and refused to try again after it stalled 3 times in 5 minutes. All riding sequences used stunt doubles or the bike being pushed while appearing to run. The engineering disaster wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars and countless production hours. The Lotus team quietly removed the project from their portfolio. Number 18. The Artificial Intelligence Voice System. The 1995 Lawmaster featured a functional voice system with actor James Earl Jones providing the bike's artificial intelligence voice, though most of his recordings were cut from the final film. The comic book Lawmaster had onboard AI, assisting judges with tactical decisions and vehicle control. Production decided to include this feature practically rather than adding it in post-production. They installed a sophisticated voice synthesis system with pre-recorded James Earl Jones dialogue triggered by buttons on the handlebars. Jones recorded over 200 lines, status updates, tactical suggestions, warnings, and responses to commands. The system worked impressively well during tests. Riders could press buttons and hear Jones's distinctive voice emanating from speakers in the bike's bodywork. Director Danny Cannon loved it initially, imagining extended scenes of Dredd conversing with his motorcycle. Test audiences hated it. They found the talking motorcycle silly and distracting, breaking tension during serious scenes. Cannon reluctantly cut 90% of the AI dialogue, leaving only brief snippets. James Earl Jones received full payment for work, barely used. The voice system remained functional in the prop bikes, but sat silent most of filming. Some recordings survived in deleted scenes on DVD releases. The full library of Jones's Lawmaster dialogue was supposedly preserved in studio archives, but has never been publicly released, representing a fascinating piece of lost film history. Number 17. The 2012 Kawasaki Foundation. The 2012 Dredd Lawmasters were built on Kawasaki Ki-1000 chassis, chosen specifically because they were cheap, plentiful, and nobody cared about destroying them during stunts. Production designer Mark Digby needed to build multiple Lawmasters on a limited budget. He researched affordable motorcycles with the right proportions for modification. Kawasaki KZs 1000s from the 1970s and 80s were perfect. They featured large, powerful engines and substantial frames that could support added bodywork. More importantly, they were worthless. KZs 1000s had depreciated to near zero value, with decent running examples available for under $1,000. Digby's team bought 8 bikes from various sources: Craigslist ads, motorcycle salvage yards, and private sellers. The total cost for all 8 Foundation motorcycles was approximately $6,000. They stripped the KZs down to bare frames and engines, removing all bodywork and accessories. Then they fabricated custom fiberglass fairings, seat units, and details, transforming the dated Kawasaki's into futuristic Lawmasters. The modifications were extensive but relatively inexpensive compared to building custom motorcycles from scratch. The KZ engines were reliable and easy to maintain, preventing the mechanical nightmares that plagued the Stallone production. Stunt coordinator Greg Powell appreciated having expendable bikes. When crashes destroyed Lawmasters, they'd simply find another cheap KZ and rebuild it. The Foundation choice was brilliant problem-solving, achieving impressive results through intelligent resource allocation rather than wasteful spending. Number 16. The Weapon System Props. Both film versions featured elaborate weapon systems that were entirely non-functional props, disappointing fans who hoped for practical pyrotechnics during filming. The comic book Lawmaster bristled with weapons: twin lawgiver cannons, grenade launchers, and various lethal armaments. Both productions built cosmetic weapons that looked impressive but couldn't fire anything. The 1995 version's weapons were machined aluminum painted to look functional. They featured moving parts, barrels that rotated, ammunition feeds that moved, but nothing actually launched projectiles. Muzzle flashes were added digitally in post-production. The 2012 version used even simpler props, mostly resin castings painted metallic. Some had LED lights, suggesting power but no functional capability. Pyrotechnic supervisor Joss Williams explained that functional weapons on motorcycles created unacceptable safety risks. Recoil could destabilize bikes during riding. Muzzle blast could injure riders or damage bikes. Legal restrictions prohibited certain weapon types, regardless of functionality. The practical solution was building convincing props and adding weapon effects digitally. Modern audiences accept this approach, but 1990s action fans expected practical explosions and gunfire. The Stallone film's marketing heavily featured the Lawmaster's weapons, creating expectations the production couldn't fulfill. The 2012 film was more honest about digital effects, avoiding similar disappointment. Number 15. The Karl Urban riding experience. Karl Urban had extensive motorcycle experience before Dredd, allowing him to perform most riding sequences personally, unlike Sylvester Stallone, who refused to ride the problematic 1995 version. Urban owned motorcycles and rode regularly for pleasure, giving him legitimate skills. When cast as Dredd, he insisted on riding the Lawmaster himself, rather than relying entirely on stunt doubles. Director Pete Travis supported this, knowing Urban's genuine riding would enhance authenticity. Urban trained on the modified Kawasaki Lawmasters for 2 weeks before filming, learning their unique handling characteristics. The added bodywork and weight changed how they responded, compared to stock motorcycles. Urban adapted quickly, developing confidence in the bikes. He could execute most riding sequences the script required, accelerating, turning, stopping smoothly. What he couldn't do safely was high-speed stunts or crashes. Those sequences used professional stunt rider Kevin McNally. The division of labor worked perfectly. Urban handled all dialogue scenes and moderate riding, establishing his physical presence on the bike. McNally performed dangerous stunts, maintaining visual continuity. The combination created the impression of Karl Urban doing everything, though reality was more collaborative. Urban's genuine riding skills saved production money and time, compared to constantly substituting stunt doubles. His comfort on motorcycles shows clearly in the final film. Dredd looks natural and confident on the Lawmaster, rather than tentative and awkward. Number 14. The Mega City. One traffic problem. Creating futuristic traffic for Lawmaster chase sequences in both films proved more challenging than building the bikes themselves, requiring extensive visual effects work that consumed significant portions of both budgets. Judge Dredd's world features Mega City 1, a massively overcrowded metropolis with extreme traffic density. Both films needed to show Lawmasters navigating through this chaotic urban environment. The 1995 production built practical futuristic vehicles for background traffic, spending millions on custom cars and trucks. They filmed on Los Angeles streets, adding their custom vehicles and digitally removing modern elements. The hybrid approach looked expensive but unconvincing, with obvious mismatches between practical and digital elements. The 2012 production couldn't afford extensive practical vehicles. They filmed in Johannesburg and Cape Town, using actual traffic, then digitally replacing or modifying vehicles in the post-production. Visual effects supervisor John Thumb's team digitally altered hundreds of cars, adding futuristic details and changing proportions. They also created completely CGI vehicles, filling out traffic density. This approach was cheaper and more consistent than mixing practical futuristic vehicles with location shooting. Both productions discovered that background traffic consumed enormous resources for elements audiences barely noticed. The Lawmasters were heroes of their scenes, but creating convincing environments for them to ride through proved equally essential and far more expensive than anticipated. The traffic challenges illustrated how superhero and science fiction films require world building extending far beyond the title character's immediate props. Number 13. The comic accuracy debate. Comic book fans viciously debated both film Lawmaster's accuracy to source material, with neither version satisfying purists who wanted impossible specifications brought to reality. Judge Dredd comics showed Lawmasters as impossibly large, heavily armed motorcycles with contradictory details varying between artists. Some depicted them as massive touring bikes, others as sleek sport bikes. Weapon placements changed constantly, proportions were inconsistent. Translating this contradictory source material into practical motorcycles meant choosing which version to honor while disappointing fans preferring different interpretations. The 1995 design leaned into bulk and weaponry, creating a massive bike matching the comic's most exaggerated depictions. Fans complained it looked too cartoonish and impractical. The 2012 design was sleeker and more believable, drawing criticism for being too realistic and lacking the comic's over-the-top aesthetic. Online forums debated endlessly about which version better captured true Lawmaster spirit. The arguments ignored the fundamental problem. Comic book physics don't translate to reality. A motorcycle with the Lawmaster's depicted armament and armor would be unrideable. The weapon's recoil would destabilize it. The weight would make it uncontrollable. Both productions made reasonable compromises between visual fidelity and practical functionality. Purist fans refusing to accept those compromises created no-win situations where any design choice would face criticism. The debates continue today with neither film version achieving consensus acceptance as definitive Lawmaster interpretation. Number 12. The weight distribution. Nightmare. Both film Lawmasters suffered catastrophic weight distribution problems from added bodywork and props, making them significantly more dangerous to ride than standard motorcycles. The 1995 version was the worst. The elaborate enclosed bodywork added over 200 pounds to the base Harley, with most weight high and forward. This raised the center of gravity dangerously and created severe front-end weight bias. Riders described it as feeling like the bike wanted to flip forward during braking. Low-speed maneuvers required enormous strength. The bike would tip over if not carefully balanced while stationary. Stunt coordinator Charlie Crowell refused to allow speeds above 25 miles per hour after test runs revealed dangerous instability. The 2012 Lawmasters had better but still problematic weight distribution. The fiberglass bodywork was lighter than the Stallone version's materials, adding only 60 to 80 pounds. However, the Kawasaki KZ1000 wasn't designed for that additional weight. The suspension struggled, bottoming out during jumps or hard riding. The steering felt heavy and unresponsive. Stunt rider Kevin McNally adapted by riding more conservatively than typical action sequences required, knowing the bike's limits. Both productions learned that making motorcycles look futuristic through added bodywork inevitably degraded their handling characteristics. The visual coolness came at the cost of practical usability, requiring stunt riders to perform with handicapped machines while making them appear effortless. Number 11. The police consultation failure. Both productions consulted with actual police motorcycle units about Lawmaster design and functionality, receiving consistent feedback that was almost entirely ignored in favor of visual appeal. The 1995 production brought Los Angeles Police Department motorcycle officers to review Lawmaster prototypes. The officers provided extensive feedback about what made police motorcycles effective: good visibility, easy dismounting, accessible controls, and stability at low speeds. They explained that police riding involved constant stopping, slow-speed maneuvering, and quick dismounts. The Lawmaster design violated every principle they described. The enclosed bodywork restricted visibility. The riding position made quick dismounting impossible. The weight made low-speed handling terrible. Production thanked the officers and ignored everything they said. Visual impact trumped practical law enforcement considerations. The 2012 production repeated this mistake. They consulted with South African police motorcycle units who provided similar feedback. The officers emphasized reliability, simplicity, and ease of maintenance. They warned against overly complex designs that would fail in field conditions. Production again prioritized appearance over functionality. Both films created Lawmasters that looked impressive, but would be disasters as actual police vehicles. The comic book aesthetic demanded visual spectacle that contradicted real-world police motorcycle requirements. Neither production was willing to compromise their vision for practical realism, rendering the police consultations pointless exercises that wasted everyone's time while creating the appearance of thorough research. Number 10. The Stallone version's abandoned legacy. The 1995 Lawmasters were supposed to be donated to motorcycle museums after filming, but ended up rotting in a Universal Studios warehouse for over 15 years before being scrapped. Production had spent enormous money creating these elaborate props and initially planned to preserve them as film history. Universal's publicity department arranged for one Lawmaster to tour motorcycle museums, generating ongoing promotion for the film. The tour lasted 6 months before the bike's constant mechanical failures made it too expensive to maintain. It was returned to Universal and placed in storage. The other Lawmasters went directly into the warehouse after filming wrapped. Storage costs accumulated while the bikes deteriorated. The custom electronics corroded. Rubber components dry rotted. The exotic materials used in construction degraded poorly. By the mid-2000s, the Lawmasters were in terrible condition. Universal considered restoration, but quotes exceeded $100,000 per bike. The decision was made to scrap them instead. In 2011, all the Stallone Lawmasters were destroyed, cut apart for recycling. A few components survived in private collections. a handlebar here, a body panel there. The complete bikes were lost forever. Film historians consider this a tragedy, the destruction of significant props from a major studio film. Universal defended the decision as economically necessary, noting that storage and restoration costs exceeded any potential value from preservation or sale. Number 9. The Urban version's practical sounds. The 2012 Lawmaster's engine sounds were entirely practical recordings from the actual Kawasaki engines, a deliberate choice to ground the futuristic bike in mechanical reality. Sound designer Brent Burge wanted Dredd's world to feel gritty and real rather than sleek and polished. He argued that Futuristic doesn't require synthesized sounds. The Kawasaki KZ1000 engines produced excellent mechanical sounds, deep exhaust rumble, distinctive valve train clatter, and satisfying intake roar. Burge recorded the actual Lawmasters extensively, capturing every operating condition. He used these raw recordings with minimal processing, preserving their authentic character. The decision contrasted sharply with typical science fiction sound design that layers synthesizers and creates unnatural mechanical voices. Dredd's Lawmasters sounded like powerful motorcycles because they were powerful motorcycles. The authentic sounds grounded action sequences in physical reality. Audiences subconsciously recognized real engine sounds versus artificial creations, lending credibility to the film's world. Motorcycle enthusiasts particularly appreciated hearing genuine engine character rather than generic Hollywood motorcycle sounds. The approach influenced subsequent science fiction films, demonstrating that futuristic doesn't automatically mean artificial. Sometimes the most effective sound design involves capturing reality excellently rather than manufacturing synthetic replacements. Burge's work on Dredd earned industry recognition for innovative simplicity, proving that less processing can create more impactful results. Number 8. The helmet communication system. Both Lawmaster versions featured functional communication systems built into Judge helmets, creating practical challenges for actors trying to hear directions while wearing heavy props. The Judge helmet design included communication equipment allowing contact with other judges and the Lawmaster's AI. Both productions built functional radio systems into helmet props, allowing actors to receive directions from directors during filming. The 1995 helmets used bulky 1990s wireless technology, adding significant weight. Stallone complained constantly about neck strain from the heavy helmet. The communication system's audio quality was poor, with static and interference making directions difficult to understand. Stallone frequently misunderstood directions, requiring repeated takes and frustrating everyone. The 2012 production used modern Bluetooth technology, creating lighter and more reliable systems. Karl Urban could hear directions clearly through his helmet speakers. This allowed director Pete Travis to give real-time guidance during riding sequences without cutting. Urban could adjust performance based on feedback while continuing to ride. The functional communication also helped stunt coordinators direct complex sequences, ensuring safety while maintaining action flow. The technological advancement between 1995 and 2012 dramatically improved the practical filming experience. What had been a frustrating obstacle became a useful tool, demonstrating how evolving technology solved problems that had plagued earlier productions. Number 7. The tire compound controversy. The 2012 production used soft racing compound tires on the Lawmasters for maximum grip during stunts, burning through 73 tires during filming despite limited motorcycle screen time. Stunt coordinator Greg Powell wanted maximum traction for safety during aggressive riding sequences. He sourced Michelin Power Cup race tires designed for track use, featuring soft rubber compounds that provide incredible grip but wear extremely fast. The tires transformed the handling of the modified Kawasaki's, allowing confident high-speed cornering and hard acceleration. Stunt riders loved them, feeling secure pushing the bikes aggressively. The problem was cost and consumption. Race tires cost approximately $250 each and lasted only hours under hard use. The Lawmasters went through rear tires every day of motorcycle filming, sometimes requiring midday changes. Front tires lasted slightly longer, but still needed frequent replacement. The production burned through 73 tires total, spending over $18,000 just on rubber. Accountants questioned whether racing tires were necessary versus cheaper street tires. Powell defended the expense, arguing that stunt rider safety and confidence justified the cost. One serious crash from inadequate tires would cost far more in injuries and delays. The tire budget was approved, but became a cautionary tale about how small components can accumulate substantial expenses across a production. Number 6. The comic creator's rejection. Judge Dredd comic creator John Wagner visited both film sets and hated both Lawmaster interpretations, later stating publicly that neither captured his original vision. Wagner co-created Judge Dredd and the Lawmaster concept in the 1970s, establishing the iconic design in comic form. He was invited to both productions as consultant, bringing decades of character knowledge. The 1995 production showed him the elaborate Lawmaster prototypes, expecting praise. Wagner was politely critical, noting the design looked too clean and technological. He'd envisioned the Lawmaster as brutal and utilitarian, a tool rather than a showpiece. The ornate bodywork and smooth curves contradicted his gritty aesthetic. Production thanked him and changed nothing. The 2012 production hoped Wagner would prefer their grittier approach. He visited the set, examined the modified Kawasaki's, and was again disappointed. He felt they looked too much like contemporary motorcycles, with cosmetic additions rather than genuinely futuristic machines. Wagner wanted something that didn't exist in reality, a truly alien design. Both productions had created compromised versions, balancing visual appeal with practical functionality. Wagner understood the compromises, but disagreed with the choices. He later stated in interviews that the perfect Lawmaster exists only in comics where artists aren't constrained by physics, budgets, or safety regulations. His rejection of both film versions disappointed productions, hoping for creator approval, legitimizing their interpretations. Number 5. The replica builder community. A dedicated community of fans built Lawmaster replicas superior to both film versions, creating functional motorcycles that better captured the comic aesthetic while remaining rideable. The first major replica appeared in 2007, when UK builder Nathan Nunez created a Lawmaster using a Honda Goldwing as foundation. He fabricated custom bodywork closer to comic proportions than the either film version. His bike was functional, street legal, and visually impressive. Photos spread online, inspiring others. A replica building community emerged, sharing techniques and improving designs. Builders used various foundation bikes, Goldwings, BMWs, even custom frames built from scratch. The best replicas incorporated functional weapon props, working lights, and details neither film included. Some builders created more accurate Lawmasters than productions with million-dollar budgets. The replica community's success highlighted the film version's compromises. Fans with limited budgets and garage workshops achieved better results than professional productions. The difference was priorities. Replica builders cared only about Lawmaster accuracy, unconstrained by actor comfort, insurance requirements, or production schedules. They could spend years perfecting single bikes. Film productions had weeks and competing priorities. Several replica Lawmasters have appeared at comic conventions, often drawing more enthusiastic fan response than film props. The community continues building and refining designs, keeping Lawmaster culture alive, independent of official productions. Number 4. The insurance prohibition legacy. The Stallone Lawmaster's mechanical unreliability created insurance industry precedent that affected motorcycle use in action films for decades afterward. Insurance underwriters covering Judge Dredd's production faced enormous claims from the Lawmaster problems. Mechanical failures caused injuries, damaged other equipment, and created delays costing hundreds of thousands. The insurance company investigated and concluded that custom-built motorcycles created unacceptable risks. They issued new policy guidelines requiring that any custom motorcycles in future productions undergo independent safety certification before insuring films using them. The certification process was expensive and time-consuming, requiring engineering analysis and destructive testing. Many productions decided modifying existing motorcycles was easier than building custom bikes and navigating certification. The policy change influenced action filmmaking industry-wide. Subsequent films used production motorcycles with cosmetic modifications rather than engineering custom machines. The 2012 Dredd benefited from this lesson, choosing modified Kawasaki's specifically to avoid insurance complications. Production could demonstrate the foundation bikes were proven designs, satisfying insurers while adding non-structural bodywork. Stallone Lawmaster's failures created a bureaucratic legacy lasting far longer than the film itself, fundamentally changing how Hollywood approached custom vehicles. Insurance requirements now constrain creative choices in ways that didn't exist before Judge Dredd proved how badly custom vehicle experiments could fail. Number 3. The Missing Stallone Lawmaster. One complete. Stallone Lawmaster mysteriously disappeared from the Universal warehouse before the scrapping order, spawning conspiracy theories and the still-active search by collectors. When Universal inventoried props before scrapping in 2011, they counted 4 Lawmasters when records indicated 5 had been stored. 1 was unaccounted for. Internal investigation revealed the last documentation showed all 5 bikes present during a 2006 inventory. Sometime in the following 5 years, 1 vanished. Security footage didn't cover the warehouse area adequately. No theft was reported because nobody noticed until years later. Theories proliferated about what happened. Some believed an employee stole it, recognizing value before destruction. Others suggested it was moved to different storage and misfiled. Conspiracy theorists claimed Universal secretly sold it to a private collector. The missing Lawmaster became a legend among prop collectors. Several people have claimed to own it over the years. But examination always revealed replicas or different props. The authentic missing bike featured specific damage and modifications documented in production photos. None of the claimant bikes matched these markers. A $50,000 reward was quietly offered through collector networks. No credible leads emerged. The Lawmaster remains missing, presumably sitting in someone's collection or garage, recognized or unrecognized. Its current value would exceed $500,000 given rarity in film history. The mystery continues frustrating collectors who consider it the ultimate Judge Dredd holy grail. Number 2. The Real Police Interest. Both films generated genuine interest from police departments worldwide about developing real Lawmaster-style motorcycles, interest that evaporated when practical limitations became apparent. After the 1995 film's release, several police departments contacted Universal, inquiring about Lawmaster technology. They were interested in integrated weapons systems and computer assistance. Universal connected them with Lotus, who explained the bikes barely functioned and were completely impractical for real use. Police interest died immediately. The 2012 film generated renewed interest. The grittier aesthetic suggested more practical design. South African police, having worked with production, inquired about developing similar bikes for real deployment. They envisioned Lawmasters for rapid response units in Johannesburg. Engineers assessed feasibility and concluded the concept was fundamentally flawed for real police work. The weapon systems were illegal under international law enforcement conventions. The bodywork restricted officer mobility during dismounting. The weight and handling made them dangerous in urban environments. The South African police abandoned the idea. British police briefly explored similar concepts before reaching identical conclusions. The Lawmaster works perfectly in fiction where physics, laws, and practicality don't constrain design. Reality offers no path to making the concept functional for actual law enforcement. The repeated cycles of police interest and rejection demonstrated the vast gap between science fiction vehicles and real-world requirements. Number 1. The prophetic design elements. Despite their failures as functional motorcycles, both Lawmaster versions incorporated design elements that predicted real motorcycle technology appearing years or decades later. The 1995 version's enclosed bodywork and integrated electronics seemed ridiculous in the 90s. 20 years later, BMW's C1 and several electric motorcycles feature similar enclosed designs prioritizing weather protection and integrated technology. The extensive computer systems and heads-up displays in the Lawmaster helmets seemed pure fantasy. Modern high-end motorcycle helmets now incorporate Bluetooth communication, heads-up navigation displays, and integrated cameras. The 2012 Lawmaster's aggressive LED lighting was unusual then, but became standard on sport bikes within 5 years. The single-sided swing arm design, allowing quick rear wheel changes, was exotic in both eras but is now common on performance motorcycles. The regenerative braking concepts suggested in the Lawmaster's design became reality in electric motorcycles like the Livewire. Even the weapon systems, while remaining fictional, predicted drone integration and non-lethal crowd control technologies some police departments now explore. Neither Lawmaster succeeded as practical film prop, but both films' designers extrapolated contemporary motorcycle technology in directions that proved remarkably accurate. The Lawmasters failed in their immediate purpose, but succeeded as prophecy, showing what motorcycles would evolve toward given time and technological advancement. This unintended legacy gives the troubled props significance beyond their cinematic failures. Judge Dredd's Lawmaster wasn't one motorcycle, but multiple failed experiments across 2 films, each attempting to realize an impossible comic book vision. From engineering disasters to missing props, from police interest to replica builders, the truth behind these futuristic bikes proves that sometimes the most interesting stories are the failures, the compromises, and the unintended consequences of trying to make science fiction real.